I am so sorry. I forgot to take my mute off. So can we just pretend I've see always going to cock up. So quick rundown of what I've said. Apologies. In the description it says issue 19. I meant to put issue 20. Um, Also, I haven't got the actual build today because the magazine didn't come in. But the research that I've done suggests that issue 20 is exactly the same as issue 18. So I'll be building 18 as though it's issue 20. It's going to be quite a short. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I've just caught up on the chat and everyone's saying no sound, no sound, hello, no sound. I am so sorry. Listen, if I'm going to cock it all up, let's do it on the first show. Let's get all the cock ups over and done with. So I do apologise. So hello, Horlicks, Dave Milne and Dave Say. Now, the format of the show isn't fixed in stone yet because it is the first one. As you can see, I'm very nervous. When I start doing this, I'm really nervous. Once I've done a few shows, I'll be like Jeremy Clarkson of the Routemaster world. So, hello, love minis. Now, I just need to do something right quick. Uh, there we go. Right. So, there's going to be a team of three of us. First of all, actually four. The first member is myself, as you can see. Here I am. The second member is going to be a co-presenter who sadly can't make it today because he's got a much lovelier event to go to, a little birthday he's off to. So I will introduce the co-presenter next week. I feel it will add a much richer show for everybody. There'll be, yeah, sorry about, I really am sorry about the sound. The third member is you've probably just seen her in the chat. It's Love Minis. Now, Love Minis has been with me since I started Twitch. I will just say this is going out on YouTube only. I do like to say that I'm starting to do some dual broadcasts and Twitch broadcasts on YouTube. So this is YouTube only. Love Minis has been with me pretty much since the start of me being streaming. She's helped me grow my channel, and she is my moderator in Twitch. So it makes perfect sense to ask her to be moderator for my YouTube channel. You probably won't notice her other than any comments she makes. She's like a really good football referee. If you notice her, she's not doing a good job. So as you just won't notice her too much unless something happens. So after I do the hellos, which I'm doing now, I'll go into the news. Now, there isn't much news this week because it's the first episode. However, I need to give a big shout out and hello to Hachette. I spoke to someone today who said that she will try and tune in. Whether she's able to, I don't know. But in case you're watching, thank you so much for sorting my problem out today, which I will discuss at the end of the show. It's regarding some other issues. I had some problems, and the problems I've had with Hachette sometimes is that one person will tell you something, then you'll ring up again and they'll tell you something different. And just as I thought I got the problem sorted out, I got an email and it just seems that someone said something differently. So I rang someone up, I suggested a solution to the problem, she accepted that solution, and everything was brilliant. So we've also got Super Plush AF Ventures come in. Hello, I think we saw you last week, didn't we? So welcome to the show. So after the news, we'll go into the build, which is what I'm going to do today. So for this bit, I've got to try and smoothly change the camera angles, and that may actually have done it. So this is actually issue 18, and I'm going to pretend it's issue 20. What I'm going to do next week, when I get my issue 21, hopefully by then I'll have issue 20, I'll actually redo this build. Later on in the show, we're going to do a rebuild. So I just need to change that to a fixed focus because I don't like with the focus just keeps changing. I need to just fiddle with settings. It's something that I'm going to get used to doing. Also, my monitor is actually backwards. So when I go left, you can see my fingers here are going left, but on my screen it goes right. So it's something I have to get used to doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend this is issue 20, and I hope you don't mind, but it is actually issue 18. So, so I've been assured that it is exactly the same, and this is a three-part process. And these are the parts which I don't even need to check. I know they're all there. So we've got 18A, which is the tyre. We've got 18B, which is the rear wheel rim cover. Some people don't like that. I'll give you some news about that later on regarding a mod. And the last piece, probably the most important, well, no, I don't know. One of the most important is the rear outer wheel rim. And the instructions are very, very simple. They are simply warm the tyre and pop it onto the wheel. And what we should end up with, because we have done 18 already, I'm just getting my build, and we will end up hopefully with this tyre and this wheel rim cover. Now, that makes me, well, actually, I'm looking forward to next week because I'm not happy. It's all part of the process, but I'm actually not happy having just one wheel, because now the chassis is sitting lopsided. But not a problem. So unfortunately, we're not going to need my super screwdriver today. So right, so all we're going to do is we're going to warm the tyre up. Now, the reason we're going to warm the tyre up, I know I've been through this on other videos, and I apologise, there's 6 of these in total. This is very, very hard. As you can see, I'm squeezing this as hard as I can. It's just not pliable enough to go onto the wheel. Now, the first time I did a tyre, I didn't actually warm the tyre up, and I made an absolute mess of it. As you see, that's not, I probably could get that in if I was stronger, but the much simpler way is to pop it into either water or a hairdryer. Now, this water, because I knew I needed to prepare it beforehand, I made it too hot. Now, please don't use boiling water. You don't want to melt this, you just want to warm it. And the way that I do it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's getting a bit hot now. But I see I can hold my fingers in there for a certain length of time. But I wouldn't want to bathe in that temperature. So it's what I call a little bit too hot, a little bit hotter than comfortable. So all we're going to do is we're just going to plonk that in there, and we just need to leave it for a couple of minutes. Now, excuse me, when we, while we're soaking that, all we have to do is just, well, I like to use kitchen towel. I just find it's quick and easy, and it's absorbent. And I personally, I get a double sheet and then another double sheet. And what I'm going to do is when that's ready, I'm going to plonk that onto there, and I'm going to dry it with this one. Just all it is just not to make a mess. So I'm just going to quickly check the comments. There's no question, but feel free to ask questions. More than happy to answer any questions. What we'll do on the more technical builds, we'll try and save the questions for after the build. But if there's any questions that we see while the build is actually going on, we'll try and answer those straight away. But obviously the main theme here is that we're going to try and build. So I've left this for about a minute. Now, I don't really want to put my hand in there. It's not too hot, but that's probably not quite ready. Really depends how strong you are. If you're not that strong, then you're going to need to just warm it a little bit longer. So, but you could probably see that from the amount it did move, it is softer. So is everybody okay with that? Now, when we've done the build, what I'm going to do is we'll have a little chat about the build, answer any questions, and then I'll tell you about a giveaway that I'm going to be setting up soon. It's going to be a joint venture with a chappie called Horlicks, who you can probably see in the chat. He's very, very kindly done me some, some little 3D printed objects, which I'll tell you about later. So very, very excited about this. Right, so here's the tire, and you can see now I can bend that a lot more. It's a lot more flexible. So I'm going to go with that. Now you don't have to work with this super quick, but obviously don't hang about. If I now go out and make myself a cup of coffee, by the time the kettle's boiled, it might start getting a little bit cooler. Um, but that's quite warm. I could probably sleep with that and keep me warm on a cold night. Not these nights because it's too far too hot. So now I put my fingers into the kitchen roll, and you really want to make sure you get your fingers in there. What's going to happen is when the wheel is on, that's going to seal. Anything that's inside there now is going to seal. So really make sure you get that out. If you've got any dampness in there, once the tire cools down, that dampness could turn to water. Obviously, steam is hot water, and if you've got that sealed in there, then obviously you're going to have a little bit of water in the bottom. So obviously, if you do move the bus about, it's going to slosh. So I've made sure I've got that in. Now, easiest way I find, it doesn't matter which way round you do this, and the reason for that is that the tires are. Let me change the focus and probably change the lighting as well. I have a lot of problems with my lighting because it's a really powerful light, probably too bright for streaming. And I tried to turn it down, but I just had it. I just had it there. See if I can get an autofocus in. Probably not. It's because I'm trying to control the wrong camera. Look, I'm focusing in my other camera. There we go. There we go. Right. So you can see the tire is exactly the same on both sides. So it doesn't actually matter which way round you get this. So we'll pick any side, probably have the pointy side up because then it's not going to go into my hand. And what we're going to do is we're going to get two of these. I don't really know if they're called anything. I'm calling them protrusions. So I'm just going to make the tire a little bit wider, and I'm just going to pop those protrusions in to the tire. You can come in from the front or from the back. It really doesn't matter. And get both of them into the tire. If it's difficult to get in, then you need to just warm the tire a bit more. And I'm just going to pop my hand behind, or you can put it down on the table. And I'm just going to push one in. It will require a little certain amount of strength. There we go. One almost in, and then come in. To be honest with you, this might actually be a little bit. There we go. I thought that might have been cooled down a bit. Now that's probably not going to go in straight, as you can see there. So I'm going to push that from this side, and I'm going to push it back from the front. And I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times. And it's just going to make sure that the wheel is inside. So push, push, push. And that is it, guys. That's all we need to do for this episode. Now, that's not, I believe that's the inside, isn't it? Now, for the next issue, which is something I found out last week, it wasn't until I put the other tire on, these are actually not equidistant. As you can see, if you look at the angles, you'd expect those to be, 120 degrees each. But they're not. And in fact, looking at this, no. So when you get the other tire, they're going to go on. You need to line them up. Be careful. If you line one up and then pop the screw in there, it will go in, but the other two won't. So if you had problems last week, then that will be why. That leaves us with one part, which is the cover. Some people don't like it, some people are all right with it. And that will eventually go in there like that, but that's not needed this part. So what I personally would suggest, because you're not needing this, it comes with a really nice tray. Why not use it? So I apologise that this is the same as last. Oh, hello, Rick the Rock Pate. How are you? And hello, Chris Davies. Right, so this is that's that done. Is everybody comfortable with that part? Does everybody know what they're doing? And is everybody happy with the way that I built it? Let's say feel free. Now, unfortunately, there is a little bit of a delay between you guys chatting and me broadcasting and you guys chatting. So I will slowly progress on to the next section of the show. And obviously, if I see any questions, I'll just stop and pull it back. So my opinions of that is a little bit varied. Dave, you got news for me? Oh, Dave, do you know what? Yes, Chris, I have, which I will explain later. So, my opinions of that is tires aren't my favourite area. I find that there's too little to do. I personally, I'm about the technical build. Should I change my camera angle so you can see me? Whoa. There we go. That made me all out of focus. This is because when I was controlling the camera before, I was actually controlling this camera, trying to change the focus. And I was actually controlling this camera. So let's have, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm getting over a cold from about a month ago. So I personally, I'm about the technical build. So when I see things like popping a tire onto a wheel, I'm like, I won't use the word disappointed because it's all part of that bus. But at the same time, I'm grateful that they've given us the wheels early on. As of next week, we will, in a few weeks, obviously we've still got the front wheels to attach. But I'm hoping that issue 21, has anybody got any ideas what 21 is going to be all about? Any guesses or any information, maybe something I hadn't had a chance to see. But I'm hoping that 21 is exactly a bus without wheels is not a bus, it's a shed. This is why I'm happy. If we had to wait till issue 125 to get the wheels, it'd be like, oh, and I'd be spending two and a bit years worrying, am I scratching the bottom of the chassis? Let's get the wheels on and then it's ready. And so I'm happy that it's coming out soon. I don't know what we're going to expect from the seats. Some people have speculated that it's going to be very boring and we're going to be doing, or not boring, but tedious. I suspect I won't find it tedious because, well, I'm a bus driver. Just out of interest, how many people here are A, bus drivers, ex or current? How many are just bus enthusiasts? And how many are just interested in the build? And how many are just interested in watching this YouTube show? I would find that quite interesting. As a bus driver, I actually like all the different seats. I can go to London and the seats, the pattern of the seats, and then I'll go to Norwich or perhaps first group buses. They have a different pattern. A chassis in part 22. That would be an interesting one. I really hope it's the front chassis. I really want to fix. I don't care where it goes. It's got the wheels on, front and back wheels on. I mean, I watch a lot of builds. For example, there's a DeLorean build, and they seem to after a while they've got the seats on, and then they're building it up from there. And I'm hoping that's the way the bus goes. That we You know, we've got all of these parts. We've got bit here, bit there. I want to join them together now. So Dave Say was a coach driver and a vintage bus owner. I am so jealous of you, Dave. I would love to own a bus. I'd actually like to turn. You might shout at me for this. I'd actually like to own a bus, double decker, and I'd actually like to turn it into a motorhome. Um, but yeah, so we've got some bus enthusiasts, and we've got passengers who love the build. So we've got all different angles covered here. We've got modern bus driver, we've got not so modern bus driver, enthusiast owners. So we're all perhaps expecting different things from this build. And I know, for example, whereas I like the more technical builds, I like to get that screwdriver in there. I complain about problems with the build, but secretly I like those problems because it gets me thinking, am I going to have to send this part back or can I fix it? Sometimes it's just a case of poking a hole in something because maybe there's too much paint on there and it's just sealed the hole. And I like to figure things out, and and when the instructions aren't clear enough, yeah, I'll complain because the instructions should be clear. But again, deep down, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's figure this one out. Um, yeah, so Chris, you said someone has turned a double decker into a camper. That's what I'd like to do. I did have a mad idea once of getting a bus engine and turning it into a trike, but one of the fits told me that I would have to have a really long trike and it just probably wouldn't be able to handle it, mainly because of the weight. But that idea came from a friend of mine who has a Ford Transit engine trike, and he has never lost a tug of war contest with trikes ever because Transit engines are so torquey. They haven't got the high speed, but they've got the raw power. Um, so yeah, different people wanting different things from the builds. I know there's some people here that aren't maybe so good at the technical builds, technical sides, whereas the technical sides are the ones that thrill me a little bit more. Yeah, so would you like to see our, this is a sneak preview only for you guys. So guys, I would like to, we have a saying in Twitch called, we want to give you a lot, can you give a lot of hype to? What it basically means is cheer, say hello, congratulate. So if you can give a lot of hype to Horlicks. Now on some of our builds, we have screws and we end up with all these screws. Do you know what? So I've just noticed this really bad habit I've got. When you get allocated a bus, because I'm useless at remembering numbers, I always write the bus number down on the back of my hand. And this is the last bus I drove today. So there you go. If you figure out where I live, where I work, you could probably find that bus. And it wasn't a very good bus, I'll tell you that. So when we do these builds, we have screws everywhere. I was at what was it the recent episode we did? Oh no, no. I did a practice build, a practice episode with my co-host, and we had 5 different sets of screws. And the problem is you'll use this screw, then that one, and they'll roll all over the place. So he, so I forgot what I was going to say now. Horlicks had identified a problem, and he came up with this. And I may just have to. So basically, what this is a 3D printed screw tray. Now, I'm calling this a deluxe version because this is a bigger one. I'm having this. Why not? You know, it's my show. I'm going to have the best one. Now, there was a bit of a mix up with the numbers. I thought I'd ordered 5, and Horlicks thought I'd ordered 10. So I have to give away. Well, I actually got 9 now because I've given one away. So these are smaller ones. These are exactly the same, but they're that big. Now, I don't know if someone would find these useful. I think they're absolutely amazing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give 6 away. But we're going to do, don't, I'm not giving them away yet. And I'm going to use 3 for channel promos. I have a plan which is going to make my channel grow, I hope, and I can reach out to more people. So we're going to give away 6 of these. And we were discussing today, because obviously I do stream on 2 platforms, YouTube and Twitch. I don't want one platform to suffer at the expense of another. Now, a typical way that we do YouTube giveaways is leave a comment and I'll pick one at random. And the typical way that we do Twitch giveaways is buy a raffle ticket with points and I'll pick one winner. So what I've decided to do is we will give this away on YouTube as well, actually I'll it is brilliant. It's absolutely amazing, isn't it? In fact, I'm going to put this on. Um, I just love, I love screws written on the side. It's, I think that's just perfect. And he's got this lovely sticker on the bottom, so you know where it's come from. So if you haven't seen Horlicks's channel, have a look. His videos are quality. They really are good. And they're so much attention to details. I see that when he does something, the way he checks it. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how many entrants we get on Twitch and how many entrants we get on YouTube, and we're going to give them away proportionally. So making numbers up here and making the numbers easy. If we had 10 people enter on Twitch and 20 people on YouTube, then we'll give 2 away to Twitch users and 4 away to YouTube users. So these will possibly be yours if you want them. Obviously, if you don't want them, that's fine. But I think they're really handy, and this border is wide enough that when you get your screws, I mean, our screws for Routemasters, they come in a bag with a little sticker, and what you can do is just pop the sticker on the corner and then pop the screws in, and then when you finish, the sticker's just going to come off. So that's coming up in another video. I still need to sort that out with Horlicks, so thank you for those. And yeah, so what I'd like, now I was going to talk to you about an issue, and this is really, really difficult to explain, which is why it's taken me so long to sort out with Hachette. Issue 12 and 13. Sorry, I do forgive me. I'm just pulling out the magazines now so that I can show you. And I seem to have not got issue 13. Why have I not got 13? There it is. Right, issue 12 and 13 are the whoa, can't find it. There we are. It's the right arm, right and the left rear suspension arm and brake mechanisms. Now, this is perhaps a little bit of a purist thing, and some of you might get put off now. But what we've got, let me take the autofocus off. Got the wrong camera again, haven't I? Do apologise for this. Right, I want to bring the focus right in. Right, so the issue that we've got is, this is actually 13. The dampers on the top, this is issue 12. They're absolutely perfect. And what you'll see is you've got, like, they're a square with a cutout bit. And the cutout is on the inside. Okay, now on issue 13, right, okay, so this is issue 13. What the part goes in like that. However, you see the cutout is on the inside there. This is the inside. And if you put it in correctly, the part is now on the outside. Now, a lot of people have said, turn it upside down, but I don't feel it fits. Now, see if I can get this right in. Whoops. Sorry, I'm running two PCs. Right, see how close I can get that. Right. If you look in there, can you see that the hole on this side, there we go. If you look at the hole there, it's bigger and then it goes smaller as you go in. So on this side, and then this side, oh, it's actually smaller on one side. Starts big and then it goes in smaller. And the reason it does that is the top of these, you can see they're bigger at the bottom and then smaller peg at the top. Now, again, some people will class this as being a bit geeky. Now, if you push this on properly, like, oh, sorry guys, I apologize. My camera has, or my computer, have I stopped broadcasting? Sorry guys, am I still here? Sorry guys, I think I've got a problem with my camera. Ah, I'm back. Guys, I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened there. Right. So I'm just going to wait for the, there we are. Right, we've caught up. So I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there. Right. So you see there, if you put this on properly, you should have the top bits just poke through. Now, what's been suggested is to fix this, is to turn it upside down. But what you'll end up with, these big bits there need to actually go all the way down into there. So if you put it in upside down, you can see it's not actually going to go down as far. Okay, you may not see this once it's all built. But I'm sorry, I have a bit of an attitude in that I'm paying good money for this. I would like the correct part. So the suggestion I made to, I think it's this one. Yeah. So the suggestion, well, basically, first of all, I was told that Hachette are aware of the problem and that they will be republishing issue 13 and sending it out to the subscribers. However, later on, I was told, oh, no, just turn it over, which I've said doesn't work. So I've actually rung up Hachette, and this is why I'm giving them a big shout out. Because issue 12 are spot on, what I've said is, well, could you send me another these two parts from issue 12? Because let me show you what happens. You can probably already see this coming. Just changing the focus. I'll turn this light off. Right, so these are the correct pieces, right? And this is the incorrect. If I take that off, this is the part from issue 13, and then I take the part from issue 12. You see they are, sorry, this is the bit I meant to say, right. Issue 13, you can see they're both identical. Whereas issue 12, they're different. They are supposed to be different. So if you take this part from, I've forgotten which part's which now, there we go. This is the part from issue 12. We place it onto issue 13's part. Voila, perfect. So they are very kindly sending me, because I've got one subscription issue and one newsagent's issue, and in addition, I'm doing a build for somebody. I actually have 3 copies. So I've asked them to send me 3 copies. Now, I personally am choosing, once I get those 3 copies of issue 12, which will fix this, I will actually take these 2 parts out, repair issue 13, put the faulty parts back in the magazine, and I will be sending all 3 magazines back. I'm not greedy. I don't need parts that I don't need. So big shout out to Hachette. Thank you so much for sorting that out for me, and hopefully that shows you that I am not just after extra issues. Also, does everybody else have a problem with this little part? I can't get it to stay in. And on mine, I've actually glued it in. I can't see, I haven't said anything about it on the video because I don't want 4 million people gluing it in. And if it goes wrong, they come back to me and go, "Oh, you told us to glue it in." So if anyone else has this problem, I don't really have a problem at the top. The problem seems to be getting the plastic to sit in the metal. Does everyone else have that problem? So I'm going to keep these out. The reason being is now I'd like to do every week or at least once a fortnight a revisited. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. All feedback is appreciated, even if it's not positive, because if you give me something constructive, I can use that to improve things. So what I'd like to do is at least once a fortnight, we'll have a revisited. Now, obviously, at the moment, we haven't done that many issues. So going back to issue 14 isn't really a massive jump. I'm hoping that by the time this show evolves, do you know what? We've only been going 38 minutes, haven't we? So yeah, by the time this channel evolves, we'll be perhaps up to issue 117, and we'll be revisiting issue 15. And I'm already looking back at some of the parts and going, "Oh God, yeah, I remember doing that." So I'm hoping that this segment will be fun. So as I say, I'm actually doing this for someone else. So I'm thinking this is a wonderful time to get this done, because I actually got issue 12 done on a test stream when we were testing this out. And then we made some little improvements, and then I did issue 13, and now live on stream I can finish the job off. And I'd already said to the guy, lovely guy, well, it's actually Chris, if you want to say hello, Chris, I'm sure you wouldn't mind me saying that. I did actually say to him, "I'm really sorry, I'm really busy, I don't know when I'll get a chance to do it." And as it happens, I was able to get 2 parts done by doing test streams, and hey, sod it, let's get it done now. So are you happy for me to do issue 14? If so, I will get on with it. And this will help me, it will balance things out, because I did love issue 14. It's quite technical, and it makes 2 lumps here into something. So this is one of the problems with the build, or not a problem. I use the wrong word sometimes, and I do apologize. You have to build things that don't look like they're progressing. Now, this is a really good example of lots of screws. This has actually got 5 packs of screws in it. So sometimes you have to do things that aren't. This isn't. I mean, it looks nice. It looks absolutely beautiful, but it doesn't look much. And in fact, for me, it raised more questions than it answered. Things like this brake, I didn't understand why that was loose until I got to issue 14. And the issue 14 is one of those issues that makes you go, "Oh yeah, I can do that, and I can, oh great, it's now starting to look something." So let's pretend we've never done issue 14. Oh, Chris, honestly, if I didn't want to do something, I wouldn't do it. I don't mind helping, and you know, when I can reach out to more people by reaching out to one, you know, there may be other people going, you know, I nearly threw that in the bin. Look, this is why I have a dry bin and a wet bin. Can you imagine if I had a wet bin and I threw that in the bin and I had to fudge through and get it again? Ow! I'm sorry, guys. I just banged my foot on my chair. So I'm going to have a quick pause. A mute, sorry. So am I flickering on screen, or is it just my computer's really slow? My second computer. So I'm going to check the screws first, because then I can get rid of them and just put them to one side. So we've got a pack of CM screws, 3 of 1.7 by 4 millimeters. A pack of screws, we've got 3 of those. They're 2 by 4 millimeters. A pack of screws, there should be 3, 2.3 by 4 millimeters. So this could get confusing because if you got these in the wrong spot, if you picked up the wrong screw, they could all fit. They're all metal screws, but they're all different lengths. I think they're different. No, sorry, I've got that round the wrong way, haven't I? They're all the same length, but they're different widths. Sorry, ignore me on that then. GM screws, I have 3. Now these will be the same width as the FM screws because they're 2.3 by 5 millimeters, but they're not as long. And lastly, we've got NM screws, which is 1.5 by 3, and there should be 3 of those, which there is. So the parts we have, sorry about this. You see now why I need a co-host, don't you? There's times when I go quiet because I'm doing something, excuse me, and the co-host can be keeping the interest going when I'm quite boring. So 14A, this is the rear axle, and this is metal. 14B, the differential cover, and if you've seen my YouTube video, I do remember when I was doing all this because I was trying to explain what differential is. I still don't understand. Maybe Mike, would you be, sorry, Dave, sorry, I don't know why I called you Mike. I do apologize. Are you able to describe differential in a live chat room? 14C is a trailing arm and 14D is a trailing arm base. These are both metal. In fact, they're all metal apart from one piece. 14E, sorry, 14E, my apologies. This is a crossbar. And this one, I don't recognize that being there, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. And one of the first things I noticed, this hole here is much bigger than this one. And then we have a cross rod, 14F. And it's got 2 little, I keep forgetting what they're called, locating pins. And lastly, and these are the fiddly bits, because I find sometimes these packets, they get static charge in them, and these bits, any small plastic bits, it don't seem to like a statically charged plastic. But these are, well, they're just called adapters. What they adapt, I don't actually know, I'll be honest with you. So I'll lay the parts out. Now I will change the camera angle because what I want to experiment with is actually making really close to the camera. And I think that that will help you get a better detail. So let me just bring a part up right, nice and close. That's kind of the view that I'd like to give you while I'm making. And then that should hopefully, I think that's a painted part, but it still looks absolutely beautiful. I think beautiful is the only word you can use to describe this issue. It's lovely. Very bright, very, very bright, but we are building this as it came out of the factory. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take the trailing arm 14C, and we need to note that there's a smaller hole, smaller hole on this side than there is on this side. And then we will attach that between the arms of the trailing arm, which is 14D, and it's the smaller piece that will go in. Now, there's 2 ways to fix this, the right way and the wrong way. If you push it up, so it's this part is pushing against that, you'll see that it actually slants upwards. If I was to turn that round, that will slant downwards. We must make sure that that's slanted upwards. And then what we will do is we'll fix that with 2 FM screws. which gives me a fantastic opportunity to demonstrate my lovely screw pot. So I'm going to take a sticker, which I'm going to place there. And then I'm just going to tip my screws into there. And there we see, there's my screws. In fact, these are the only time we're going to use these screws. Now, I did notice, this makes me laugh because it probably, I might just be weird, but I made a friend, well, I added a friend, or a friend request came through on Facebook. And as everybody does, I went through a few little posts that they made on their wall, because obviously being a friend gives you access to their wall. And I saw a post about their Routemaster build. I know the person who's I'm talking about knows exactly what I'm talking about. But what they'd done is they'd posted a picture of the chassis from about issue 17 and said, "Can you see what it is yet?" What I noticed was just on the very, where are we? Just on the very edge of the photo was one of these. And I'm thinking, just about everybody I know who builds the Routemaster has that screwdriver. You know, you get some mechanics, for example, they'll go on about how brilliant and how expensive their tools are. It seems the favoured screwdriver for Routemaster builders is a £1 Poundland screwdriver. I just think that's hilarious. Right, so I'm only going to screw this in. If it goes in, it's struggling a little bit. There we go, just enough to make it bite. That's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to pop the other FM screw in. And I'm going to screw first of all until it bites. And then I'm going to go in a little bit deeper. I have to keep trying. There we go. Ah, I like that camera angle. It is extra shiny because of the light. So then I'm going to go back. And I'm going to screw this one in. It's like a race on the cartoons, you know, when you see one in front, then the other, and that's basically how I'm going to screw the screws in. So that one's going in, and I'm going to switch to this one. I don't know if it would make a difference. Yeah, this screwdriver, it came from Poundland. There are one or two screws where this isn't the best, but not many, to be honest with you. And of course, you got your little, I'm missing one. Ah, there we go. So you've got a couple of Phillips, and it looks like, is that a chuck key one? A couple of flat heads. I can't remember what you call them. I know there's a technical name for them. I call them Morphes. Always called them Morphes because these are Phillips. So you got Morphe Phillips. So yeah, that's just, like I say, I'm a little bit strange sometimes. But yeah, I just for £1, you go in Poundland and you get some really duff stuff out of them, but sometimes you'll get something brilliant. And I favour their super glue. Well, that is until I found Gorilla Glue. Right, so there we go. And it doesn't say in the magazine anything about over tightening, but this to me looks like it's something that's going to move a little bit. So fix it until it's, don't go as tight as you possibly can. Perhaps if you feel that you could get another eighth of a turn in there, I would say that that's probably enough. Yeah, it does. It does look worth more than £1, doesn't it? It is actually quite cheap. I bet if I stood on that, I'd bend that if that cap wasn't on. But it's could be doing with a little bit bigger. And I've not got big hands. But on the whole, I think it's brilliant. So that's part one complete. That's the trailing arm. So the angle is away from the base. After checking the orientation, fix in place with 2 FM screws, a view of the finished trailing arm attached to its base. And then we're not actually going to use this. So that's coming in another part. So section 2, and what I'm actually going to do now, because I don't need these anymore, I'm just going to temporarily, I keep my spare screws. I don't know if anybody has seen, or if everybody, sorry, has seen my pillbox. I think a lot of people use pillboxes. Do you know what? Oh, there we go. So I keep all my spare screws in here. I've got a lot because I'm doing 2 builds and I've unpacked it. All my subscription issues, which I've not built yet, I've actually taken them out of the packets because I find that by doing that, they take up less room. Yeah, it does look like a pen, and you could even pop it in your pocket and it'll just sit there quite nicely. So I'm just going to take 2 or 3 minutes and I'm going to pop, let's pop the GM. In fact, no, I'm going to do them one at a time. I actually, to be honest with you, you don't need these, the sticker on here, because we seem to be using all, this is an easy episode in terms of screws. So what we need is the rear axle. And again, just like that other part that I showed you, this is nothing short of beautiful. I just think it's fantastic. Do you know what? I thought I could hear something in the background. Yep. I'm so sorry. Bear with me. What I could hear was because I've got 2 computers. A little, what I call a granny computer, one that's not really too powerful, but because my main monitor screen is backwards, I've also got my this show running, and of course I can hear myself, but with a delay. So all we're going to do on this is we're going to take the rear axle and check the fit of the differential cover, and then we're going to screw that in place with a GM screw. Now, difficult to get the right angle, especially when I can't figure the orientation out of the camera. But you've got these 2 parts there and those 2 there, and you can see that they're gonna come in like that. Now the way to check if they're in, I can wiggle that so that's not in. Once they're in, there we go. They're not moving. Once those 2 lugs are in, if they're not in, it will move, guarantee that. So I'm just going to hold that in place. I'm going to grab 1 GM screw. And again, I'm just going to pop this in. This screwdriver, I believe, isn't going to work for this one because it's a long bit. Yeah, there we go. So this is what I mean, but this screwdriver is very good, but not for absolutely everything. What it can do very, very well. I'm going to steal the screwdriver from, I think this is the Millennium Falcon, which I'm deliberately using this because I haven't used the Millennium screwdriver for a while. So I don't want it to get upset. So we're checking that it's not wobbling. So we're going to pop 1 screw in there just until it bites. There we go, that's bitten. And now obviously it means we can let go and it's not going to drop off. So we'll take the other GM screw and we'll pop that in. And this one can probably go in all the way. There's not that much. Yeah, definitely have a look. I mean, do you think it might be worth me having a look in my local Poundland? And do you know what? I'm not happy with that. I might have screwed these in wrong. No. It wasn't that I screwed them in wrong. I hadn't screwed them in enough. So you may need to screw them in quite hard. There's a little bit of a wobble on that. There we go. I'm happy with that. Whoops. Anyone who watches my Twitch stream will know I drop things. So yeah, if anybody wants me to have a look, and I might just pop in and pick up their entire stock, and then if anybody wants them, I'll charge them £1 plus the postage. But I do thoroughly recommend them. We've also got some others that we got from Wilco. They were recommended to me by, it was either Horlicks or World of Mike Anderson. I can't remember which one. It might actually have been both. Right, so that is part 2 done. And that is as tight. Oh, do you know what? That's not coming out so well. It's almost like I'll screw one screw in. Yeah, right. Do you want to, if you get have you got a mobile phone handy? You want to take a photo of the screen on that, perhaps? Or do you, in fact, I'll tell you what, are you all on the Facebook group? The bus, okay, no worries, Dave. That's absolutely fine. Right. There's a group that I run, and there's a group that some other people run. I'm actually going to be closing the group that I run down, purely because the other group is absolutely fantastic. Do we actually need everybody in the same in two different groups? But in the larger group, I'll take a picture of this tonight, and then I'll post it in that Facebook group. So then you'll be able to see what it looks like. So right, that's part 2 done. Part 3 is a little bit trickier. What we need to do is we need to take the crossbar. Now we need it does say check the orientation, and the orientation is that the larger hole that we mentioned about is on the left, like so. It's so confusing because when I look up at the monitor, it's on my right. And then what we need to do is get the 2 plastic pieces, which is the adapters, they call them. And I'm going to pop them in my screw pop. And we will need NM screws. So I'll get the NM screws out ready. And I'm using this big section because there isn't another spare section left. But I will put my GM screws. When I put things away, I have to try. Oh, Amazon sell them. Do you know how much they sell them for on Amazon? Right. So, yeah, I'm afraid I do have to stop everything and put my screws away, or my spare parts. Otherwise, I fear losing them, or I end up with a big pot of mixed screws, and that kind of defeats the whole object of having something that can organize it. Right, so I'm just going to double check that these are both the same. I believe they are the same because they're called adapters rather than an adapter. So, and they'd also be given different part numbers if they were different. So they look absolutely identical on that side, to me anyway. And on the other side, absolutely identical. So we're going to assume that they're the same. So, if you have tweezers, yeah, that Dave, you say that the differential makes the wheels turn independently. That essentially is it. Basically, if when you turn, if you drew parallel circles, you see there that if this is the turning circle of a bus, this is the inside tire and this is the outside, you can see that the distance is that the diameter of that is a lot smaller than this. So in order to do one lap, the outside has to turn faster than the inside, because that's basically the differential allows that to do that. Right. So NM, what you need to do is you have this little raised bit there, and then you have just a hole there. And on the back, you'll have a locating peg just there. I personally, if you can, use tweezers or possibly even blue tack. Blue tack will do the job quite well. In fact, let's try it with blue tack. So there's so many little tricks you can use. Sometimes you just have to think a little bit differently. So what I'm going to do, just here, I'm going to put a dab of blue tack. It's not going to get in the way of anything. And then also we're going to look at our next part of our instruction. The screw's going to go there. So if I just move the blue tack that side, and then I can position that exactly where I want it. So the locating peg there is going to go in that little hole there. Not that one there. So, and that's going to go in there. And we're also going to cover that hole up there like that. So then we'll fix that with I've forgotten which one it is, an NM screw. Bearing in mind that this can easily swivel, so we may just have to move that and in like so. I'm loving this. And remember, this is, although we're screwing into metal, it is squeezing in a piece of plastic. So do not over tighten, because the plastic, then we just remove the piece of blue tack. And there we go. And I think that's fitted quite nicely. And then what we'll do is we'll do the other side. And it's pretty much, well, we need to rotate it slightly differently so that we have, there we go. So we've got the raised one above. And instead of the protrusion being on the bottom, it's now actually going to be, I am double checking. Yes, the protrusion is going to be on the right. So again, perhaps that's a bit too fiddly. Little piece of blue tack on the top. Stick the screwdriver or anything you want. That's holding quite nicely. We'll line up the protrusion, locating peg, whatever you want to call it. And then that's lined up. One NM screw. And that will go in very nicely. We'll just tighten that up. We need to stop when it wants to stop, not when we want to stop screwing it. There, just there. Perfect. So basically stop screwing when you can no longer screw with reasonable force. And there we go. So section 4, I personally, when I did this before, I felt it was not needed. However, what we need to do is take the part 13, which is this one, and we need to take the axle and fit it. The reason I might have said that wrong actually. Right. Basically what's going to happen is, because the next part we're going to fit to 1/2, this is going to fall out. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to miss this part out. But for part 4 is just pop that in there and there, done. But I'm going to go on to section 5 and then come back to section 4. Now, section 5 is screwing in there we go, the cross, I've forgotten what this is called now, the cross rod. And then you see that you've got a locating peg and a screw hole, and got to remember where this goes now. We have a locating peg hole and a screw hole. Now, don't know which way they go. If you don't know, the way that I did it was I got a cocktail stick and I popped the cocktail stick to where the screw is going to go, and then line the cocktail stick up with the hole in the cross rod, and then give it a little wiggle until you found the locating peg. Then we can remove the cocktail stick, and then we know that's in the correct place. However, one thing I've done wrong is I've not actually got my screws ready, so I've got to let go and do it all over again. So my bad. So we will be requiring CM screws. And find the hole like so. Cross rod with the locating peg down. Whoops. Find the hole for the peg. Take the cocktail stick out. And we get our favourite little screwdriver. I can see how some people would find this quite fiddly. I'm kind of having to use, I feel a bit like a violinist, having to use lots of fingers. Right. So I've only just put that in till it's bitten. In fact, it hasn't actually bitten. So I may just prop that onto the table just to give it a bit extra support. I seem to remember this was quite tricky to do, the first one. Right. Now, I'm not going to screw that all the way in. I think it's pretty obvious now we've done this half that it is going to go to the other half eventually. Because I've not screwed it in fully, it's still got a lot of play on it. And then that, if we've screwed that in at the wrong angle, I guess we won't be able to put the other side on. So I'm just guitarist, that's it. So I've just screwed it enough to bite. That's not going to come off, but there's still a little bit. Don't pull it, you could damage it. But that will get us ready for when we do the other half. So section 6, we need the cross rod. And I have to think about this. Right, so with this part, we've got the inside obviously on the inside, and then we've got the larger hole of the two. So you've got the smaller hole and you've got the larger hole. That larger hole needs to go on the left. Now I'm actually going to move this to one side, and that is going to go, of course it is. Right, now you'll see that you've got a little shape on there that to me looks like a bit of a key, and then on the suspension arm you've got a keyhole, and that wants to, what's the trick we learned from the last section? Get our screws ready. So MM screws, Mike. That's my phonetic alphabet. Does everyone here know their phonetic alphabet? Do you end up spelling out your name in phonetic alphabet, and then by the time you get halfway through, you get a couple of words you can't remember, so you just end up making them up. So for me, it'll be Papa, Echo, Norman, Egg, and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to screw that in with an screw. Sorry, I just forgot what I was doing. I was end up looking in the wrong spot. Now, don't forget that you haven't screwed these in all the way. Otherwise, your build could potentially end up quite wobbly. So there we go. I'm just doing that until it's almost tight. And then what we need to do is we need to take the brake line, and you see the little... Right, okay, that was a disaster, wasn't it? So the cross rod that we put in, I didn't quite having it biting enough. So I'll just pretend that didn't fall out, because we like our builds to be perfect and we don't admit any mistakes, even though we're doing it live on air, do we? But can you also see the problem that we would have? There we go. So there's movement on there. But if I had the axle in with all this moving around, can you see how this would all be falling out? So the plastic bit that's in the cross rod, not the cross rod, the cross bar, there's a little hole, and that's the one with the raised bit. And we're just going to thread the brake line through that. So that's going to go in like so. And then it does actually tell us in section 6 to connect that. Now, that's what it looks like when it's connected. And I have a feeling that Dave Say may be shuddering right now. I personally cut mine to length. I'm not going to advise you to do that. I'm not going to tell you to do that, but I'm not going to tell you not to do that. But that's what you'll end up with on every build that I've done so far. Dave, did you trim yours down, or did you leave it as it is? Yeah, I've used those Sorry, Dave Sayer said that he uses a light magnifying glass. His wife uses for cross stitch. I'm getting used to one. I started using one for paint brushing, painting. And while it made the area that I'm painting very large, it also made me feel, using a brush this size, it made me feel like I was painting with a wallpaper paste brush, because obviously it made the brush look big as well. So moving on to section 7, you can pretty much guess what's going to happen. So we need to put this part in, the axle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fit part 12, which is going to go on. And because we've not screwed these bits in fully, you left it as it was. Okay. So we can now pop those in, and we've got a little bit of wiggle to adjust things. Now, this side doesn't have a key like it did on the other side. It's actually a hole and a locating peg. And that is struggling to find. Do you know what? That's not going to fit. I think I found a problem. So let me move that out of the way. Right, I think I actually have a problem part here. Whoa! No, that's fine. That's just a really tight fit. So the hole there for the locating peg and the screw hole, it is quite tight, and you kind of got to get it precise. So keep double checking. The axle, you've got the differential is just slightly off to the left, but you've got this part. I've got to be honest with you, I don't know what this bit is, but that actually is on the left hand. Sorry, this is off to the right. This bit's on the left hand side, so it's on the left. Yeah, it's on the right, because I've got this upside down. So as I'm looking down on it, it's on the left, but it's actually on the right. Does that make sense? Have I confused everybody now? Is this an episode of Soap? Does anyone remember the program Soap? The comedy? Right, so there we go. That's him. There you go. And I can just wiggle that about. And what I'm going to do, if you've got big, long hands, that's probably going to be all right. But hold them together, but be careful. Don't wave them about. The whole thing's trying to collapse on me. So we want an MM screw in the middle. Again, I would do this one till just over grab point. Can you see that? All right. Sorry, I do apologize. Sometimes I come out of. Right, that's struggling to go in, but that's fine where it is. The rear one, the cross rod, wants a CM screw. And that's in a lot tighter now. So CM screw going in. Because now that we've got these screws all to at least a grab point, we don't need to hold on so tight. Right, there we go. That one's in. That's probably not quite enough. And I like to do mine so we kind of go around in a circle. Sometimes it might take 2 or 3 passes. This is actually, I remember this now. This, I think it was cut a little bit badly. So this is going to take a bit of an effort. In fact, I'm just going to... No, that's not going to work. I'm hating this because of the camera angle. Because I've got the camera right in front of my chest. I have to kind of work around the camera. I'm just going to move the camera down, see if that helps me out. So I've got this big... I'll show you actually. I've got this big stick there, pole, and that's in the way. So I have to come round, and it's making life awkward. So we did do this on the build, but I seem to remember it being quite difficult. I think you just have to keep going backwards and forwards because it is a self-tap and screw. Look, we've lost this bit again. Where is it? There we are. That bit's fallen out. So this is one of these parts that are hard work. And while you're doing it, you're like, oh, is this worth it? Oh, it's such hard work. And then when you finished it, you're like, yeah, I done that. That's mine, that is. Right, so backwards, forwards. And that is going, but very slowly and very, very slowly, but very hard work. I'll show you my palm in a minute. That's how much hard work it is. So like I say, this screwdriver, it is very good. But there are times it's not perfect for every screw. It's probably the best one for the job for this one. And I'm running the risk of just stripping the what do you call that bit in there? So you see it's still wobbly. You have to kind of figure out where it's wobbly. So there's a cross rod at the back. There we go. Oh, that's going in quite a lot. Try not, if you're doing this at an angle, try not to push too hard because you could bend it in the middle. This doesn't look, each individual part doesn't look that strong, but when they're all combined, they're all going to work with each other to make a strong structure. That's almost there. And I suggest doing one screw just a little bit at a time and then go on to another one. That's getting there. It's a little bit more solid now. And then you can see that it's this screw that needs to go in. If you see the gap there, there's hardly any gap. And there it's quite a big gap. So that needs quite a lot of to go in. And that's probably why it's as wobbly as it is. So this is the hard work one. Torquey electric screwdriver would be too harsh on it. Do you know what? It's funny you say that. I've heard that mentioned. So I'm going to do a very non-scientific experiment. I've never used the washing up liquid. So if you bear with me, I'm going to go and get some. I'm quite happy to give anything a try. I hope you're not fussy because I use cheapo stuff. So I'm just going to put a drop on a little piece of waste plastic rather than trying to manipulate it from a half-litre bottle onto a screw. So what am I doing? Am I dipping the screw into the washing up liquid? Say, because I've never used the washing up liquid, but let's say I'm quite happy to give it a go. Whoops. I mean, it could be I'm using the wrong size screwdriver head. So I've just popped a little bit just on the end, just like I would with lubricating oil or anything like that. Is that basically what it's going to do? I use an airbrush, and when I take it apart and clean it, what I tend to do is anything that screws, I put it. Do you know what? I don't know if because I've cut the thread, but that is actually really good. That's amazing. There's no friction at all. Wow. I'm amazed. I mean, it kind of it makes sense. And I've seen it written on Facebook about using washing up liquid. But that's gone in so much smoother. And that's pretty solid. There's a little tiny bit of movement, but I'll be honest with you, I know that this is all going to get bolted down. So I'm going to leave it like that. So then the last thing is we do take the brake line, just like before. We pop it through. Got to find it first. Where are we? So that's just going to go through that plastic, the little raised hole, and then that's going to go onto the brake line connector there, just like before. And it is actually a bit tighter. I mean, I say non-scientific experiment. The reason being is that it might have gone in easily because most of the work was done by me backwards and forwards. It might have gone in because of the washing up liquid, but I like that result so much that next time I pop some screws in, I'm going to give washing up liquid a go. And the way I see it is, if you're happy with a result, it doesn't matter if there's a better way to do it. You're happy with that result, so that's all that counts. So if you're happy, so I would recommend anyone who's not tried washing up liquid. All I did was I just dipped. Oh, right. I got my screw on the end of the screwdriver like that, and I imagine there's some washing up liquid on the end of my finger. I just dabbed it in like that, and then off I went. I use wool. Well, I take it that's some kind of um, lube or something. But it is definitely tighter. But it's not quite there. To be honest with you, I don't want to go any further because I don't know if I'll snap the screws. But I say I am happy. But would washing up liquid make the screws fall out easier because there's less friction? Did I right? Did I say washing? Did I say something else? Did I get my words muddled up again? I do that sometimes. Right, so the parts that we've got is this axle, which is, well, sorry, let's vacillate. I suppose I'm not going to comment. So this is it's called the rear axle, which we've just fitted that axle onto the suspension bits. And this bit fell out again in the process. So as you're watching, Chris, would you like me to super glue this part in? All I'm going to do is just super glue this bottom part that goes into the metal. That's where it seems to be falling out. It's your call, it's your build. If you want me to do that, I will do that for you. But it's now fallen out about 5 times on each side. Be interested to know what everyone else did to deal with that. So, oh, well, do you know what? I feel daft now. Yeah, well, okay, no worries. I'll get that done for you then. I will give you the brake lines because I know you said you only wanted one, but you can easily remove the one that you don't want or keep them on. So that's going to go up in a nice safe place. Now, because I'm waiting for the parts to come through, oh, you've also got this as well. Obviously, we made that right at the beginning, and that needs to be kept in a safe place. Yeah. Have a look. You might be one of these lucky people that get a part that's really, really in nice and tight. There are lucky people out there. It just tends to be that I'm not one of them, so I have to make do with making my own mods. So that is actually all I've got for you. Is there anything anyone would like to bring up that we perhaps could discuss? Also, your feedback on the show, as in, could there be any improvements? We're hoping that having a co-host will make the build go smoother because my co-host can deal with the instructions and I can deal with the building. Yeah, what's going to happen is Hachette are sending me out some issue 13s, which I will then replace those plastic bits. So I won't actually send you that until I've got those replacement bits. Otherwise, I'm going to then have to send them in a separate envelope to you, and then you're going to have to fit them separately. And it'll just be far easier if I just wait a week or two. Would you be comfortable with that? Sorry for those that don't know. I'm that part 12, 13, and 14. It's actually Chris that I'm building it for. So is everybody happy with everything? I'm sorry that I didn't have the actual issue 20. But obviously, I don't know what we're going to do in the future if I don't get an issue. What I'll do tomorrow, do things are slightly different. Tomorrow, I would normally be editing this to put out onto YouTube. Um, what I'll do is I'll do an off camera. Oh, no problem. I'm just glad you enjoyed it. Um, no, that's fantastic. I mean, I'll make myself known. Well, anyone who's in the Facebook group kind of knows who I am. So anyone is welcome to add me as a friend or just send me a message, either or. Um, and I would be looking for people who build this. I'd really like to bring on the occasional guest so we can have someone else's opinion of it. I'd be also be keen. A lot of us talk about, is this our favorite build? And I'd like to hear from people who perhaps love it, but it's not their best build. So what maybe there is else we could have done on this build to make it their favorite? Because I do love hearing opinions. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to sign off, and I'd like to thank all of you. Sorry, I did actually meant to say at the beginning, the fourth member of my team is you guys, because without you, I couldn't. This wouldn't be worth doing. And if you could all say thank you to Love Minis, because as you can see, Love Minis has been brilliant. She hasn't had to wave the ban hammer. So job, I think, just by having her presence. So did you enjoy the show? Is there anything I can do to make it more enjoyable? Did I perhaps go through things too much? Don't worry, Dave. If you know any guests that we have on, obviously I will. Yes, I'm building the Millennium Falcon, which is, I will be honest with you, is becoming my favorite build, because whereas the Routemaster is becoming something iconic that I've been on, it's a screwdriver build, and the Millennium Falcon is beginning to test some of my skills. You'll see, sir, in about another month, you'll see some episodes come up, which are extra skills. I'm not saying I dislike the Routemaster. I absolutely love it. It is. I think one of the things I think is testimony to this Routemaster is you see people complaining about an issue or some particular element of the build, maybe the customer services, and then they say, well, I think I'm going to cancel the build, but they don't actually cancel the build. And you sort of say to yourself, why aren't they cancelling the build? Could just be that they can't be bothered getting around to it. But I think the reason they're not actually cancelling the subscription or the build is because they don't want to let go of it. It's such a good build. So yeah, was it? I mean, did you both get a lot out of it, Dave? I mean, we're doing the optional extras, so we're doing the painting. I've done some dry brushing. I've done some washers. We've done some modeling clay on it, and I'm about to do some painting on it. And I'm planning to repaint the whole thing, because one thing I hear about a negative point is the panels don't match the colors, so they're all going to have to be evened out. And they're all, I feel that they're within my skill range, but it's good because it adds variety. I'm also building a 3D printer, which is completely different again because it's nuts and bolts, and then there's a few little electronic pieces going in. So that's looking very good. The 3D printer, it has is I think that's coming out Sunday or 2 weeks on Sunday. It's one or the other. So suppose I better show my face, hadn't I? If I still can. Sorry, I'm really not good with the. Oh God, that's terrible, isn't it? So, homework for me: learn how to control the cameras quickly. Ta-da! There I am. So, brilliant. So, I hope you enjoyed the show. I certainly enjoyed. I was really, I still am nervous actually. I was really nervous right at the beginning. What actually happened? I have been planning this for the last 48 hours. Oh, that is fantastic. Dave says he has a disability, so he puts a lot of it together himself. Um, right, I'll come to you in a sec, Dave. Um, for me, I've got family who are disabled, and I've worked with disabilities. I've been care worker, and I feel that I worked with an organisation that are fighting for rights for disabled people, not to give them more rights, but to give them the same rights as everybody else. The rights to access to places, the rights to do this, the rights to do that. So when I see people that you would perhaps think is incapable of doing something like we might be finding the Routemaster really easy. Um, but then there's a lot of people out there that are struggling, and to see people do that, I think it's absolutely fantastic. So when I hear about disabled people getting involved with things like this, and to have a really fantastic finished result, it just for me it's heart wrenching. It's fantastic. Right, so Dave Say has asked how the other Routemaster is coming along. I'll be absolutely honest with you. All I've done is I've been testing out some paint strip pen. So I've painted and I've repainted it. I didn't like the primer that I had, and I used yellow because that was just the color I had. Now, I haven't done any more work because I think I'm going to strip all of the chassis, and then I'm going to spray it steel, then I'm going to weather it, and then I'm going to dry brush it steel just to bring the shiny parts back. I feel it's probably going to be a waste of my time doing this bit, then that bit, then that bit. So what I'm just looking at doing is waiting until the whole chassis is complete, and then I'll do the whole lot. And then once we get a certain number of body panels in, then I'll do all of those. Once we get the seats in, I'm going to wait till we get about 2 or 3 seats just to make sure, for example, the shape of the seats is absolutely identical, and then I'll look at getting bits of leather for that. So once we've got a big section that makes it worth doing, so whereas originally I'd hoped for monthly updates, I think that's going to be unrealistic. I have a trip to organise to a place in Usk that do Routemaster hire. I contacted them about hiring a bus for a couple of hours with no driver, just so that I could sit there and take photos of it for the build. And they were really nice. And they said, contact the guy, like the manager, arrange a time, and he'll let you go down and do it for free. And there'll be loads of them. Some of them will be out on hire, perhaps, but some of them will be in. Maybe they're being repaired or something, and then I'll be able to take some photos. So obviously, what I'll do is I'll make a contribution to the Mechanics Tea Fund. It's the polite thing to do. Bring some biscuits and some tea money, and then I'll organise that. I've actually got 2 weeks holiday from work coming up in August, and I have I've said to my viewers on Twitch, I'm going to change my schedule, and I'm actually going to go out. I've been in Newport now for almost a year, be a year in September, and I actually don't know the area because I've not gone out. So can you have live with you at once? I will come to the other questions, so I don't think I've forgotten you. So yeah, I think I'm starting to think it's quite disgusting that I've been in Newport for all this time and I don't know the area. So I'm going to rectify that in August, and I'm going to go out on a few little short day trips. There's an absolutely fantastic Roman village, one bus trip away from my house. So that's one place that I'm going to visit. So I'll be visiting Usk, where this Routemaster hire place is, and I'll be getting lots of photos. They'll get published in the Facebook group. Kick plates on the stairs is my absolute priority. I know that that was one of the first complaints, is that the kick plates, the size of the screws. So lots and lots of photos. It's a good build. I built it with my son. Is that, do you know what? I haven't got my reading glasses on. Um, Yeah, okay. I think Love Minis is pointing upwards there. He has disabilities. How's your other route must come along? Well, I used to work in care. Isn't care a fantastic job though? It's so underpaid and such hard work, but you go home at the end of the day and you're like, I've made a difference. I feel like that with bus driving as well. Um, I've got people to work, and they can't do their day's work without me, and I just feel all of this is I'm part of it. um Used to be in care too, was director of a community chat. I have actually worked for a charity that did community transport. I gave them one day a fortnight driving their minibus for them, and that was fun work. So Horlicks writes, how many can I have live with you at once? That question I do not know, but I've seen quite a few broadcasts with about 4 or 5 people, which I think is far more than I will need. I think the most we could ever have realistically with this show is 3, maybe 4. There'd be myself and the co-host, obviously, and then there'll be a guest. And the unexpected would be that there would be someone else. But I can't see. Let's say I've seen broadcasts with 4 or 5 people. There's one guy I know in the Warhammer community. They regularly have a 5-person show, and I can't anticipate us needing 5. Um, so yeah, I think that's it. So um, if when now what's going to happen is when I end this broadcast, all of these comments that have been made in the live chat won't actually appear on the video. So anything that you've said now won't be on the comments below. But the video will be available to watch. Last week I made the video unlisted and I popped it into a playlist, but this time I'm going to leave the video public. So what I'd like to ask everybody is, if they want to ask any questions, post the questions below, and I will completely ignore the questions for 1 week, and then we will talk about them in the next episode. If you don't want to leave a comment, you can also grab me on Facebook, drop me a message, write a question in the Facebook groups, anything like that, and I'll pick them up. I'm Penny Blake on Facebook, and I can't remember what my profile picture looks like, but yeah. So I'm going to bring this to a close if you don't mind. I think it's been a very good first episode. Um, as I say, things have gone wrong, and I think we've just flowed with them. This is always going to be the problem, that I can't plan for the unexpected, because by the very nature of it is unexpected. Um, so yeah, so I will broadcast again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. UK time. Um, what I tried to do this morning, this is the bit where it went wrong. Everything went wrong. Absolutely anything you could think of went wrong. I wanted to post the live, like set the schedule up 24 hours before the stream, but I forgot last night, so I did it this morning. However, I've got two, what do they call it? Not two accounts, but two. I've got Paint with Penny, and I've got my old personal account, which I used to use for like motorbike videos and stuff. I set Paint with Penny up because I wanted it to be dealing with one subject, and I was actually logged into my personal videos when I set the live broadcast up, and that was the one that I posted on the Facebook group. As soon as I realised what I'd done, I'm like, get rid of it. But I was at work at the time, so I couldn't set the new one up. So I had to set it up at lunchtime. But what I've noticed is that I can, when I set the schedule up, a schedule new event, it does seem to be able to pop up on like notifications or anything, but it does seem to pop up 30 minutes before the stream, which is absolutely perfect. Um, and 30 minutes before the stream is probably when I'm actually on. This is all done via Google Hangouts, which is kind of linked in with YouTube. And obviously, I'm on the stream before I actually go live. I'm setting the cameras up and tidying my desk and getting the magazines ready. So yeah, that's one of the things that I had to set up. Um, so, are you happy with the agenda, the way that we lay things out? I want to get into the build quite early because I appreciate that there's some people that just want to see the build. And then once I've built it, they're no longer interested in the rest of the show. So let's get the build sorted out quickly. And then the rest of it is just chit chat. Let's have a bit of fun. Once we get a bit. Hello, no, Pow. Is that Pow 61C70? Is that how you pronounce it? Um, oh, no, honestly, right. It's not like you in the army or anything. Um, you saying sorry, I've not been watching for a while, I'll do better in the future. No, it's fine. I mean, if you can't watch a video, you can't watch a video. My videos are always up there. I'm not going to take them down unless there's some reason to take them down. So it's always fine. And you may find that right now, I mean, for example, if you're a subscriber, issue 19 onwards is probably completely irrelevant to you because you've not got the issues. Excuse me. By the time we're up to issue 22, then you'll get your subscription copies. 19 and 20, you might want to go back and look at those. So that's why I keep them up. I'm still getting views on episode 1, which I'm very surprised at because that's nearly 6 months. Can you believe nearly 6 months? 20, issue 20, 5 months, four and a half, 5 months we've been doing this. Doesn't time flown? Do you know, I'm going to get so emotional. I watched World of Wayne, a lot of his videos, and two of his builds now, he says, "Oh, I've got emotional when he finished them," and I honestly think this is how I actually might cry on camera once it's finished. So, oh, it is Paul. Okay, no worries. Sorry. But yeah, Paul C70. Paul C70. Okay. Right. So yeah, that's um yeah, I've run out of material now. So thank you all for watching. So again, post questions, any content for next week can go in the comments, or if you just want to say hello or thank you very much. Um, Normally I do shout outs on my video. So episode 18 of Build a Route Master will contain comments from issue 17. I won't be doing shout outs on this because I'll do the shout outs on the actual live video. I think that's more appropriate. But obviously, it's the questions that I will address. But if you just want to make a comment, say thank you or hello or that was useless or whatever, they're all welcome. So, as per usual, I run over the time that I originally thought it would be running to. But that's just me. I never know when to shut up. So thank you to the 11 people that have watched all the way to the very end. Um, and thank you for Dave's just said it's great that people like me do this as it helps with the bills. To be honest with you, it helps me a lot. I mean, I'm not being totally selfless. I will confess that. I'm getting so much. Sometimes the build might take me half an hour. Sometimes it might take me 5 minutes, and I'm getting involved with this build so much more. Obviously, I've got the magazines. I'll go to bed and I'll have a little 5 minute read before I go to bed. And then obviously with me other part works, I've got those magazines as well. Maybe I'm getting too involved in part works. But this, I love talking. I've got a few friends on Facebook and we discuss things. And what did you think of this part? Oh, it was good. And it's great. It's so much more than just pieces that we're screwing together. That's the absolute basics, but it's yeah, no, it's fantastic. Um, right, okay then. So I'm going to say goodbye. So next week, obviously, we'll have the introduction for both of us. We'll try and get a little bit of news going. Do you want would you like news to do with the build? Would you like news about buses in general, or news about the route master, or just anything? Then we'll hopefully get in with a build. I will hopefully have two issues for you, so I'll probably do two builds. I already know what we're going to be doing. I'm assuming that this week and next week is going to be the same as the last 2 weeks. So I feel that I'll be able to do two builds together. And then also, what I'll be able to do is feedback what it's like to build two wheels as opposed to one wheel 1 week, one wheel the next. So would it perhaps be more of an more fun if when you got to the first wheel you do nothing, just leave the magazine there, and then the next week build two issues together? This might be an advantage where the subscribers have got something over people like me who get it weekly. Then obviously we'll chat about the build that we've just done, which is what I've just basically said there. We'll deal with any questions that aren't, when I say not urgent, what I mean is if you're asking me questions while I'm building, I'll try and leave them until after the build. But sometimes you'll ask questions regarding the build, something that needs to be answered then. Um, and then we'll maybe have a revisit. What I'll probably do is pick a magazine at random, and then we'll deal with and everything else. I might not actually do a revisit next week, because if I do a revisit every week, then when we get up to issue 40, we will have covered it all. So we'll have that. Maybe we'll look at just one article. So thank you for watching. I'm going to end the show now. As I say, in about 2 hours, I think this show will be. When you hit stop, it kind of does all this processing thing. So thank you very much. Thank you for being great company. I'm now off to bed, and I will see you all next week. Thank you very much. Bye bye.